From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Swaini Gray. A court in Ecuador has ruled that the former president, Rafael Correa, will stand trial for the alleged kidnap of a politician. A hearing on the case has been taking place throughout the afternoon. Judge Daniela Camacho ruled that Correa is to stand trial for allegedly being the mastermind behind the kidnapping in 2012 of the politician Fernando Balda. Correa was also accused of criminal association, but Camacho dropped those charges as the prosecution reportedly could not find sufficient evidence. The authorities announced that the trial will remain open until Correa returns to Ecuador or is arrested abroad. Previously, the Ecuadorian government had asked Interpol to arrest the former president, but the international body has so far dismissed those petitions. And in an exclusive interview with Telesur, Rafael Correa spoke about what he calls the political persecution of himself and of former members of his government.
I don't expect anything from Ecuadorian justice. I surprise myself at just how calm and patient I am. The fight will go and play out on the international arena. Ecuador is looking foolish on an international level. Interpol hasn't taken any notice of the request for my arrest, but this will all change once the political landscape in Ecuador changes. This is all political maneuvering to prevent me from participating in Ecuadorian politics, especially in the upcoming local elections of 2019.
Correa also spoke to us about what he calls the plot against his former vice president, Jorge Glass.
If I were living in Ecuador, I would be in prison, just like Jorge Glass. I still have great solidarity for Jorge, who was trusted in the Ecuadorian legal system. We all believe in it, without knowing the scope of the plot that was being planned behind the scenes. He's in prison due to the Odebrecht scandal. Let the world know, not one of those who confessed to being involved in that case were ever brought to trial. Those who paid people off, they are not even under investigation, because they made a deal to steal the vice presidency from Glass and they walk away free. Jorge trusted in Ecuadorian justice and now has been in prison for nearly a year, but he's a brave man of integrity. And now he's on hunger strike because authorities decided to move him to a maximum security prison as a response to an unrelated case of another former member of my government who fled the country.
Our correspondent in Quito, Denise Herrera, has the latest on Jorge Glass's condition.
Hello, yes, indeed, the Ecuadorian former Vice President Jorge Glass was hospitalized after 17 days of hunger strike. This news was updated on the Twitter account of his lawyer, Franco Lord, who confirmed the condition of Jorge Glass was deteriorated and now his life is in danger. Also, now Jorge Glass is in a hospital in Quito where his medical team said his health is stable for now, and also in a press conference his friends and close friends of the Citizen Revolution movement confirmed the really bad conditions inside the jail that Jorge Glass has to throw out. He said that Jorge Glass didn't have a bathroom close to him inside the jail, and also that the authorities inside the jail and the authorities of Ecuador are violating his fundamental rights and freedoms now. He is also demanding to the authorities and to the international media outlets to take care of Jorge Glass and also to tell about his situation, about his condition now inside the jail. For now, Jorge Glass will be at the hospital in Quito, and they are calling to the authorities of Ecuador. His close friend, legal team, and family said that the responsible of his condition and now of his life is the current government. So it's all for now. Back to you at the studio.
Thank you for that update, Denise Herrera. Moving on to the United States, the Attorney General Jeff Sessions has been forced out of office by President Donald Trump. Sessions had continuously run afoul of the president after he recused himself from the ongoing investigation into Russia's role in the 2016 presidential race. President Trump announced that Matthew Whitaker, Sessions' Chief of Staff at the Department of Justice, will replace him as the new acting Attorney General. During a press conference earlier today, a very unusual interaction took place between the President of the United States and CNN reporter Jim Acosta, when Acosta started questioning the President about the migrant caravan, which then transitioned into a question about the Russia investigation. The exchange got very heated.
Way. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President,
that's enough.
I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have...
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation? Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
Still in the U.S., after Tuesday's midterm elections, Democrats have taken control of the House of Representatives, while Republicans have expanded their majority in the Senate. Democrats have taken 221 seats in the lower chamber, gaining 3 more seats than was needed to control it. But in the Senate, Republicans have won 51 seats, taking enough just to control the chamber against the 46 seats the Democrats have taken. These elections saw many historic firsts, with Congress getting its first Muslim congresswoman in Democrat Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. Another victory of notice was that of Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, a Democratic socialist, who is the youngest woman elected to serve Congress.
What we are standing up for is what is right. That's right. And we will never be ashamed for fighting for what is right.
As we fight to protect our immigrant families, our neighbors, our children, our planet, our communities, I promise to always have your back.
We're going to take a short break now. More news in a minute. Welcome back. Over a dozen people have been arrested in Peru for allegedly trafficking babies, including the former police chief. According to the public prosecutor's office, Raul Becerra and 13 others, including a pediatrician and a gynecologist, are accused of running a gang that persuaded poor pregnant women into giving up their babies. Becerra was the police chief between 2010 and 2011. The authorities reportedly believe that Becerra's partner, Cynthia Thello, was the actual leader of the group. And hospital workers from all over Peru are on strike to demand that the government increase their budget. More in this report.
They left the hospitals where they work to take to the streets and restarted the strike they suspended 8 months ago. The Unique Federation of Health Workers, or FENUTSA, say that the government of Martín Vizcarra's neoliberal policies jeopardized the health sector.
Vizcarra follows the policies of the former president and keeps fighting against Congress. Now, he's ignoring the needs of the people and the workers.
Many Peruvians are dying because we lack medical attention, medicine, hospital equipment, professionals and technicians.
According to the union movement, there are around 100,000 workers across the country working under unconstitutional conditions. Many of them have worked for more than 20 years.
I have no labor stability. I freelance. I do this year after year and I still have to wait to take an exam in order to work with a contract. I don't have the benefits that a formal worker has. I've done this for 20 years, and there are thousands of people that are waiting for the same thing.
On the first day of the strike, staff gathered outside the Ministry of Health, accusing them of trying to divide the union movement.
For the administrative staff, there hasn't been any kind of increase in the last 20 years. We'll ask the Ministry of Health to propose a re-evaluation of our work so our rights can be enforced.
For FENUTSA, the neoliberal policies applied in Peru are trying to weaken public hospitals to justify privatization.
Representatives of the migrant caravan in Mexico City are hoping to meet with President-elect Andrés Manuel López Obrador on Thursday. Now, while the migrants say they are scheduled to do so, the government is yet to confirm the meeting. Hundreds participated in a session where they discussed exactly when they will leave the Mexican capital and the routes they will take to reach the United States. Now, some migrants say they wish to stay longer in Mexico City, while others wanted to continue on the journey to the U.S. as soon as possible. Let's go now to our correspondent Pablo Perez, who is in Mexico City with the migrants.
Yes, we're right here at the Jesus Martinez Palillo Stadium in Mexico City, a place what hosts usually sporting events, but right now it's the home to over 4,500 migrants. They have set up camp here after a strenuous walk of 760 miles from the Guatemalan border, and they're taking a rest and deciding what's their next step to take. They're organizing several assembly and on a state or departamento or city level from where their hometowns are in Honduras, so they can decide where to go next and when to leave, which is the most important. There are like two main views. We have on one hand the younger, the stronger. They want to leave right now to the northern border, to the border with the United States, and on the other hand we have families. A lot of them have small children or elder people that have more vulnerable health, and they want to rest, they want to regain their strength before they leave to the next step on their journey. And another interesting thing is there are a lot of people considering to ask for refugee status or asylum here in Mexico, as they know that the Donald Trump's government are gonna make it really hard for them to obtain it in the States. So they say, we don't care where we are, we don't need to be in the States, we only want a place peaceful where we can work and have a dignified life. This is the situation here in Jesus Martinez Stadium in Mexico City. We go back to you.
We thank Pablo Perez for that report. Now, the first migrant caravan had a rest stop in Mexico City after a 20-day journey from Central America in search of a better life. Volunteers are helping them before they continue on to the U.S. border.
Several volunteers were on hand at a shelter in Mexico City, built specifically to house asylum seekers and migrants from the caravan. The first group to receive help are the children, since according to UNICEF, around 2,300 minors are part of the migrant group.
We first bond with them. We talk and try to get closer to the children so they can trust us. They have told us that they have been walking for days now, that they haven't eaten properly, and that they don't have shoes. They just want to play.
Volunteers are also on hand to provide psychological help. It's no doubt the journey of more than 20 days has affected the migrants.
We have helped people under a lot of stress and anxiety. They are grieving their loss, the fact they left their country behind, as well as their family members, and in some cases, their children.
Those who were forced to leave their countries are all too familiar with the risks of traveling through Mexico, a territory plagued by violence.
I was told about the danger that women face, that some are kidnapped, and about organ trafficking, but I have to be strong.
For those who joined the migrant caravan, the majority from Honduras are not forgetting the reasons why they left their home country. Cesar, for example, says he was repressed by the state.
It happened when our president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, was re-elected. He repressed the people with the help of security forces. That is why we are running away.
The caravan is set to leave Mexico City after everyone rests from 20 days of their treacherous journey before pushing onto the United States. Some are trying to regularize their immigration status.
Brazil's future Justice Minister, Sergio Moro, has said he has differences with President-elect Jair Bolsonaro. He also spoke about the President-elect's controversial gun law.
There is a proposal about the use of weapons by civilians, but that will be discussed. I told him I am worried that excessive permission could be used by criminal organizations to generate more violence. So he has to think how many guns an individual can have at home. If there are too many, there is a risk of them being used for other things.
Jamaica has been rated a top 5 destination for New Year's celebrations in kayaks, holiday travel hacker. The Caribbean island comes in at number 5, especially if partygoers are looking for a beach party on New Year's Eve. According to the website, Jamaica has increased by 20% in year-over-year searches for New Year's stays. But taking the top list is another Caribbean island, the Bahamas. Environmental and social organizations are condemning a presidential decree that will allow oil exploration within the Ecuadorian Amazon. They argue that it puts the lives of people living in isolated areas at risk.
The Yas Unidos organization, on its Twitter account, posted a draft of the presidential decree that allows oil exploitation in the Amazonas area of Yasuní, home to the indigenous people of Guarani. They argue the move violates human rights. The draft bill is being processed after President Lenín Moreno held a consultation.
The lives of indigenous people is at risk in the Yasuní. The intention of the government is that this draft becomes a decree. Yas Unidos is against the draft because it violates human rights by allowing the exploration of resources in part of the intangible zone.
Several groups confirmed this, so they are urging the Minister of Environment, Humberto Cholango, not to sign the decree. They state that the goal of the consultation was to protect the area, but they'll be endangering it if the draft is approved.
This draft is anti-constitutional, and it goes against the government's own consultation.
According to the director of research at the Catholic University of Ecuador, who spent years studying Yasuní, the area should not be touched because it's a place of sanctuary for the people who live there.
I think the need for economic resources can have positive results, but in the long term it will be regrettable. It will be extremely negative. The problem is that the government is one thing and the society is another one, and we can't agree.
Yas Unidos expressed their concerns about the indigenous people at the Ministry of Justice, which no longer exists, so now they are lobbying the Ministry of Environment. They argue that the ministry permits oil exploitation of the Yasuní, in spite of reports informing them about the dangers.
We have a short break now, but more news after this. Welcome back. At least 47 people have been killed in Zimbabwe after 2 buses collided on the road between the capital Harare and the southeastern town of Rasape. Dozens others have sustained injuries. The police spokesperson, Paul Nayafi, said they have so far identified 47 bodies at the accident scene. Of the dead, 45 are adults while 2 are children. A Namibian Liberation War veteran has said that the United States meddling in other countries' affairs has resulted in a lot of misery and suffering for a lot of people. David Shimwino is a former commander of the Southwest African People's Organization.
Nowadays, nobody at the international level, nobody is supporting the war anymore. Look at the destruction that has been caused in Libya, for example, in Iraq. So it will cause, and today it's happening in Lebanon.
Now it's time to bring you some other stories making headlines around the world.
US President Donald Trump is known for holding back his controversial views, especially when it comes to immigration. But on this occasion, he took offense to a supposedly racist question from a PBS NewsHour reporter during a press conference in Washington, D.C. Yamiche Alcindor asked if his identification as a nationalist had emboldened white nationalists. Here's what Trump had to say.
That's such a racist question. Honestly, I mean, I know you have it written down and you're going to tell me. Let me tell you, it's a racist question.
The Italian Senate has approved a bill on security and immigration. If the bill is approved, it will become increasingly difficult for migrants to be granted asylum. The Interior Minister Matteo Salvini said he was confident that the new law would be passed soon.
I just say that a strict policy lowers the arrivals. A less rigorous policy raises the arrivals. But I don't lecture the Spanish government, whom I still thank today for welcoming the Aquarius ship.
Human rights activists in Pakistan who support the acquittal of a Christian woman accused of blasphemy have appealed to Prime Minister Imran Khan to not be cowed down in standing behind the Supreme Court's decision. At a press club involving human rights activists, lawyers and civil society members urged Khan to build consensus and establish a writ of the state. Asia Bibi had been on death row since 2010 for allegedly insulting Islam. She was acquitted by the court, sparking mass protest by Islamists.
Those stories have brought us to the end of this news brief, but for these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at tellusyourenglish.net. And join us on social media because we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I'm Sonia Gray. Thank you for watching.